When you piece those things together, when you started to melt away the anger, you know what I'm saying? I got to get the visual so people understand that this anger starts to melt away because you're just, in my mind, really trying to understand why the hell can we not eat on a consistent basis? And like, why are you so secretive about what you all have been through? And as that started as that anger started to come down and you were able to listen, then it seemed that you were more really trying to figure out who you were as a chef. And I use the examples of when it was me, it was you, Jordan's friend Kyle, and we were deciding on what we were going to eat. And instead of us going to like get pizza or whatever the case may be, you were like, man, let's get some whole chickens. Because Kyle had the barbecue pit out on the patio.
That's like, right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, let's get some whole chickens. And I was like, and everybody was like, yeah, let's do it, because you were in culinary school at the time. But I could tell that energy was there of creativity. And the sauce, man, that's why I say your sauce to me is just hands down just great, man. Because that chicken, you're trying to cook it fast. We should have probably waited another hour, but no one cared. No one cared, man. We had just came from going out, you know what I mean? We were hungry. It was like, it's action time. Like, we got to eat. So as you transition to that, and that anger started to subside as far as like finding the root cause of it, like that seemed to open up a door for you. And then when did you really make that decision that I am going to do Vietnamese cuisine? Because I think just like any other, which people don't think as top tier cuisine, such as Italian or French cuisine, like, when did you tell yourself like, no, my identity is in the cooking, thanks to my mom, and I'm going to focus on this Vietnamese culture and really push that culture? Because I mean, honestly, when people stereotype Asians, they all think they're one in one group, and that's not the case. And growing up in Oakland, you know that. I mean, like, you're talking about Filipino. Filipinos, they're a mixture, so we can get onto that later. But you're talking about Laotians. You're talking about Cambodians. I mean, you got so many different cultures even within that sphere of Asian that a lot of people kind of just categorize them all together. So, like, what made you do that? What made you say, this is what I'm going to focus on? Because you just talked about how, like, when I went to school, I learned Italian and French cuisine and how to do what the norm is or what they consider high class. But now you're at a level that everything you do is always finding the I'm trying to use the right term for this, but just the nuances to Vietnamese cuisine, which a lot of people, again, that are accustomed to Vietnamese food, they think pho, they think the plates, they don't really go beyond that. And you really take that to a next level.
I think one of the reasons why I started with or went back to Vietnamese food is, just me having a conversation with myself. I had just turned 30, and the things that I was learning how to cook, I couldn't connect with it because I didn't grow up with it. Like, I was cooking alongside other French cooks, French American, French cooks, French expat imports, whatever, other Italian American, second, third, fourth generation kids who were cooking with me, alongside with me. And they were like, oh, my Nona, my grandma, my mom, my dad, whatever. They make this back home, and I know exactly how this is supposed to taste. I couldn't have that. I wanted that experience, but I couldn't have that experience because shit, like, I grew up in Oakland, you know what I mean?
I mean, you didn't have no Italian grandparents, man. You didn't even know. We didn't even know any Italian people, to be honest. But go ahead.
I didn't have those sort of memories or experiences to reference. So for me, my personal disposition at that time and moment was that prevented me from being an excellent chef in that category. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I can replicate super well, but I didn't feel like I could be original. And take my statements kindly, because there are people who aren't of a certain culture or from outside that culture, where they're able to do it amazingly and excellently. So I'm not saying for everybody, but for me, that's how I felt with my disposition. I felt limited and I couldn't do it.
Mm,
However, you know, especially because my mom cooked for me when I was young, the way she would cook stuff, the instincts of what things should taste like, if I wanted something spicier, we'll probably use chilies as opposed to black pepper. You wanted more salt, we would use fish sauce opposed to salt.
mm,
If a thing was to be sour, I would use lime or maybe tamarind opposed to lemon. So it's those sort of like flavor basics and instincts
mm,
that I think are super important, not just for a chef or a cook, but for every person to understand.
mm,
And the way I see it or the way I perceive it is that, it's different music categories with different instruments. I was learning how to play symphony with like European classical instruments when, my roots are heavy bass drum, you know what I mean? And repercussions and all that stuff, you know what I mean?
mhm,
I was in tune to other instruments, but I was learning about instruments that I wasn't rooted from, and that's
mm.
how I explain flavors. You know what I mean?
No, I got you. And I think that that authenticity, again, I mean, coming from the town,
Yeah.
you just you learn real quickly in Oakland, California, that you have to be you, because whoever you say you are, the city will say, okay, let's see if that's really who you are. And I mean, that's to your point about some of our friends or the people that we knew at the time growing up, where
Yeah.
they were in that mentality. But I just think that that also is a part of why that was a disconnect, because in Oakland, like, you just got to be authentically you at all times, because people just, it's just being fake doesn't, you get sought out and seen for being fake, and then not in a good way. It's kind of, it's like, that's not who you are, so stop acting. And to have people to be like that towards you is good, because I feel like it took it even to that level. Like, this is great that I'm learning about these cultures who historically have had these big civilizations and big landmarks into the culinary world. But at the end of the day, it just is not something that your brain was not. It's not that you couldn't replicate it, but to you, it was just like it just wasn't that feeling, man. Like, you could tell when you're doing something, like when you were at the San Francisco Asian Art Museum, and you had your thing going with the plates, and you're doing the 7-course meals and all that, which I always try to get to, but I always miss. But
It's
and
all
when
good,
you had,
Carol.
but when you had those, it was like I could tell, like the couple of snippets and pictures that you put on Instagram, or that even to promote it, you were telling a story and you were really involved in it. So I just think that that's why it just didn't connect with you in that way. I'm not saying that you won't go back, and or maybe not, maybe even you're mixing the Vietnamese culture with some of those Italian and French cuisine aspects that you learn, but you're just really trying to stay 100% you.